I'm not here to be your therapist. I am here to help you initiate something in your body and to find something. That's my job. And be it with the biomechanics for the 3D movement of the body, or be it with the Ixchel DNA system, which is more the interdimensional, spiritual, the epigenetic aspect that is locked within the cells of the body, and they go together. You need the biomechanics and you need that capacity to work with the
There is so
soul.
many layers.
Yes, and you have to be able to work in the different dimensions and with the different systems, but to make it as simple as possible. Right? To not make it that it has to be really complex. So I try and just get it to be simple and to keep as few words as possible when it comes to the actual learning. We want you to tune in.
You like to really meet people, and I think it's also a quality of yourself that you're caring for the whole osmosis component that is part of your family and friends and
The community.
yeah, exactly.
So Ixchel is a community. We are a community. So that sense of we bring parts of the body out of isolation to all work together, but we also bring everyone who takes part in what we do the opportunity to not do it to do it in isolation and also do it part as a community, because both are relevant. It's just as relevant to stand in your bedroom, look at yourself in the mirror, look at how your body's moving.
This is exactly what I had like this process yesterday, and it was in resonance with the discussion I had with Francois when you said, you have to manage your life and your body is like the CEO. It's like you're taking the wheel.
Yeah.
And it's like I always have this thought too, and it's so powerful when you go into this concept.
Yeah, the organization of all the parts of yourself, the different systems, the different departments, the different, and then the sovereignty, the CEO is, can you get all of the different systems and different departments working correctly together? And most people have not been educated to do that.
You're so right. Then today, I am with the wonderful Victoria Salomon.
Hello,
my dear.
It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah.
So wonderful.
We are so lucky. Life is bringing such empowering moment. We are at Vila de Melifontes, southern of Lisboa in Portugal. And I'm attending to this atelier session, practitioner, learning, meditative, and with Victoria, who create a unique concept. Just to tell you a little bit about Victoria, then you have been trained as a mesotherapist, but you were so appealing to know how the body works together, and including your past family story. You were very concerned about how people can live in sovereignty in their body.
Yes, absolutely. Rather than being dependent on a practitioner. And even as practitioners, I mean, we're aware of Chinese medicine and, ways like that to understand and study the body. But even there's very little education to the person themselves in just the basics of how to live in their body. As in, we literally teach you how to walk, just how to walk.
Exactly. Instead to be like an automat, like a robot,
Yeah, not doing anything that looks really clever, not doing anything that's really pushing the body. Just what is actually the thing your body needs to do most when it comes to movement. And it's actually to very simply put one foot in front of the other. And then we're looking at what is going on for every organ, every system that is sitting inside the bones. Well, the structure of the bones gives the scaffolding and the foundation to support everything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's all including the concept of connectivity, you
Yeah.
know, like the bones, the biophysiological system, and the organ, and the vagal nerve, you know, and we can name everything in the
nervous
body.
system. So we say in terms of the vagal nerve, the nervous system, emotion is energy and motion. If you align the motion, you align the energy, and therefore the emotion is taken care of.
I really want to go deep about this specific thing, but just before that, when you had this idea, it was just at the start of the COVID, like about 6 years
that
ago.
I put the program together,
But you choose the name Itchel, and it's related also to the shell, which you have your wonderful earring. If you want to show to the, then it's like also the circular movement.
The galactic butterfly is actually the symbol. That would be the English translation. And so I took the name about 20 years ago, and it was literally, I was looking for a name for my business while I was doing a business module in my clinical massage degree. And so I decided to rebrand. So as I was looking at rebranding, I wanted a new name, and I was looking at different names. Nothing worked because all the domain names were taken for the websites, everything that made sense to me. So then I had this pack of goddess cards, and I just looked through because for ideas, just something to trigger an idea. And then I saw Ixchel, and Ixchel was the medicine woman in her local community that was a channel of healing. That was it. And I was like, yes, that is basically a word that symbolizes, I worked 5-minute walk from my home, 5-minute walk, opposite my daughter's school. I worked with people in the local community. I wasn't the medical side of things. I was very much the side of things to bring in healing.
I mean, it's all including the somatic effect of the body, like the sensitivity and the subtlety, where you can reach all the little details. And you choose this wonderful logo that for me is bringing also like the elegance of the body, the grace.
And the opposites, the different dimensions, the spiral of energy, the light and the dark. There's a lot in that logo, so I went to
like
design.
the yin and the yang.
Exactly. I went to a design agency. I knew her. She was in a networking group I was in, and I was like, "Can you come up with something?" And so they found this, and I was like, okay." And I got them to refine it. It's gone through different colors over the years. Over the last 20 years, we've done different colors, but now it's very profound, and
it seems it's evolving with the moment.
Yes.
There is that kind of osmosis that is creating with your environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was what came through loud and clear 20 years ago, and I could never, ever have envisaged how this would play out. But what came through was you'll grow into this. You'll grow into this. Both the name, because the name didn't really make sense to me in terms of in my present life at the time. And the image was a beautiful image. And I knew it meant things, and I knew it was symbolic. But you have to grow into things. Things have to develop. Yeah. Now it's developed.
When I saw the name of Itchel and your logo, for me it's kind also, and it's really related to the concept you develop with the biomechanic. It's like you going through yourself. It's your inner shell that can have this blooming effect by understanding all the biomechanics, and then you really can have this empowerment.
Yes, yeah. And it takes time. Not everyone who does our program feels the benefit of it instantaneously. Actually, for some people, that kind of break through process. So if your body has been misaligned, be it because of an emotional collapse, whatever that could be caused by, or a physical collapse, it can be that it takes time, whereas other people will get very, very quick But it's a fascinating journey because you're not just realigning the physical body. As you do that, you are hitting. When I say hitting, you're not physically hitting, but you are meeting, you are discovering where the misalignments are that are switching off certain muscle groups, over using other muscle groups, the connective tissue where it's kind of built too much, and other areas where it's just really thin and overstretched. The bones are the fulcrums for all of that. And be it a physical or emotional trauma, they are the cause for the alignments of all of that. So it's basically a shortcut. You know, my experience both in my own life and witnessing that of my clients is talking about things just keeps taking you round in circles. It's a complete misunderstanding that the brain can get the body out of a physical situation. Yes, it can help. And on a continuum, it may help a few points. But if you were to have gone to the same thing via the bones, it would have happened far more quickly. Far more quickly.
I truly believe that. You know, part of my research is in the pillars of life. It's clear for me that everything needs to start with your body.
Yeah.
Even if you have like a certain type of disease, because I have patients who came to me and say, yeah, but I have difficulty to move, I cannot train or things like that, but there is things you can do just slowly. And you can be lying down and tracting your muscle and have the consciousness, you know. It's like we have the idea that we have to become an athlete to train, but
you need to be doing like all these crazy things with your body. And actually, where we're different is we're not even talking muscle, really. We are talking bone. We're saying that, so if you focus on moving a muscle, it will always feel more tiring than if you focus on moving a bone.
Oh, interesting.
Like the actual activity of if you move a bone, it will usually it might feel strange. It might take time for people to be able to get to that connection of I'm moving my bone, I'm moving my joints. But that is the core, that is the hinge. So the analogy I love to use is if you think of a door as the muscle, is the door moving the door? Or is the hinge moving the door?
Okay.
So actually, you could touch a door with the tip of your fingers and it begins to move if the hinge works. Whereas if the hinge is off, how difficult is it to move that door? You can physically feel how heavy that would be. So the muscles are like this. They have at least 2 hinges, and they are designed to move in 3 directions. And when the hinges move the muscles, it's completely different to the intention of, of just being muscle-led. You have to experience it, but it's a completely different
thing. All the bones are all the structure of the body. It's like it's what is making you like the stature, the posture, the gait. And we can talk about that because it's when you meet somebody, the first thing you're asking is to make the video.
Yes.
You really want to see how the person...
I want to know how that person walks, because what the story someone tells that comes out of their mouth is a kind of combination of coping strategies and just their experience of themselves. But when you look at the way their bones are aligning when they put one foot in front of the other, within that is the unconscious movement and function of that human being. And we can predict a lot from just looking at how the relationships of the bones in movement are impacting the nervous system. And as much as we are all unique and incredible for our sole purpose and whatever we're here for, we are also exactly pretty much the same when it comes to the mechanism of the vehicle we live in. And we can tell from observing how that human is using the vehicle they live in, and how the skull and the rib cage and the pelvis and the feet are moving forwards, but not just forwards, also moving sideways, also in rotation. We know exactly, within reason, the impact that's having on their organs and their nervous system.
I remember when you saw my video and you make the resume and the analysis, I said, my God, this lady is in my mind, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the body,
Yeah.
guilt and posture is also the reflection of your personality and the way you regards life and
Yeah.
you perceive your...
Absolutely. Your direction, if your feet are going in different directions, usually you're always going to be someone who finds decision making really hard, or you'll think you're going there, and then you'll have this inner conflict, because, you know, very basic things. So there's nothing, in a way, it can feel very mystical to people when we're communicating that, but it's not. That the empowering thing for anyone who does our program is they begin to realize the answer was right there. It was textbook, grade 1, easy.
Yeah, where does the
to read it.
biomechanics come from? That was something...
Where does the biomechanics, in terms of my learning, or generally?
Generally.
Well, generally, I suppose biomechanics was used for sport and used for, you know, in the medical world and in the
ballet
sports world.
dancing.
Ballet dancing, but also I would say running, athletics, any kind of sport, looking at how the body's designed to be used, looking at momentum, looking at speed, and looking at the structural alignment and how the body's being used. So sports people will have needed this to get their gold medals.
Yeah, because when they are training with their, coach, sometimes there is a little movement that will make all the difference in their in the pulse, and the strength. And
yes, so that is mechanics, biomechanics, and they're doing it for performance. Whereas my background, my degree, I was studying all kinds of sports injuries and sports therapy, but far more from the perspective of injury rather than performance. So I had come through my healing journey in terms of working with other people was looking at helping them heal chronic physical or emotional pain that was stuck in the body. So where I came face to face with biomechanics was where I'd always been fascinated by the power of reflexology. No matter what else I went off and learnt, I knew that reflexology could work with every system in the body, and I found this really curious. And also it worked with the emotional body. And then I was at a conference on myofascia, probably in about 2012 or something like that. And a colleague of mine who'd been on my degree level course with me said, she said, I've just done this course by this guy, you might really like it. He's written a book called What the Foot. And his name was Gary Ward. And the moment I heard the name of the book, it was like, wow.
You figure out everything. It's like the logic.
Like the foot. He's about the foot.
Let's bring your foot.
Oh, it's locked in the room. We'll show it later, I promise.
Okay. With the 26 bones and 33 joints.
And 33 joints, yes. How many times have I said that in my lifetime?
Then the feet are like the big foundation.
Yes, and so we have these 26 bones and 33 joints in a foot. So my first thing is, it's not just a foot. It is a work of absolute incredible machinery. You have two of them. I have two of them. And no one's really taught us, just for the basic human being, how to use them. And they are extraordinary mechanical, functional parts of ourselves, and they are the only part of ourselves that connects to the ground. So when I hear people talking about grounding or, feel the ground, it drives me a bit crazy, because actually there's so much more. Like, there's a whole world in there of all these bones, and the bones are designed to articulate in a particular way. And we have this foot tripod. So Gary Ward, his first thing is about the foot tripod and how important these different
with
parts
the heel.
are. The heel and the first met and the fifth met. And what you started to feel, what you felt this in the last few days when you've been here, is that simply by aligning them correctly, so they have to be pointing in a particular direction, and the structures above need to be placed in a particular alignment, the mechanics of that will just switch everything on.
I felt it. I felt it. And for me, it's like switching to a position that will bring a specific mindset. And this is something I want
Yes.
you to detail that, because it's like the alignment of everything makes like clear thought, and
Yeah.
it's like you're becoming
Absolutely.
more
So
empowered.
I think one of the best ways to almost give a sense of how this works is to say how I tested this methodology out in its simplest ways. During COVID, I was also going through a very, very difficult divorce, which involved a court situation, and I needed to learn to stand on my own 2 feet correctly, metaphorically. I needed to be able to stand my ground. I needed to be able to get specific results. And I needed, during that time, to keep my mind and body together and not be flawed by the attack coming from the other side. And this was very interesting.
Your mindset was crucial.
My mindset was crucial, but I realized that my mind couldn't control it. And that I felt overwhelmed because my mind couldn't control my mind at that time.
Can I tell a story?
Yeah.
It reminds me exactly what you are explaining. Greg Braden
Yes.
was explaining during the COVID, his mother passed away from the COVID.
Yes.
And he could not visit her. And he was so like in shock, and even if he knows all the technique,
Yeah,
meditative
exactly.
technique or art brain coherence, he said, I could not, my mindset was like in a turmoil.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, it's really exactly what you were explaining yesterday, is the cell memories
Yes.
that are anchored in your past,
Yes.
that are like coming to the surface.
Yeah, I believe it's that, and I believe it's something else as well. It's definitely what is our capacity, being who we are and the body we are, to respond to that, and that's all going to get triggered. But it's also that sense of powerlessness, helplessness, hopelessness, of interacting with other humans, other bodies, walking this earth, and having a completely different reality. And it's not about making them wrong or right. For Greg, he was dealing with society and what was going on, and this was other people's decisions that will have. So there was a hopelessness, helplessness, powerlessness, where no matter what you've done in your life, you still can't control. You cannot control this outcome. And I found that in myself. And I also found that there was a big difference between truth that is based on perception and truth that is truth. And it was that moment in time where I was up against an incredible layer of perception of people saying what was true, and it looked very convincing. And it was devastating because it certainly wasn't my truth, and it certainly wasn't the truth of other people's involved. And during this time, before the final hearing, which I didn't know would be the final hearing, but it became the final hearing, it was as if a channel almost opened up, and I was just saying, how can I even be in this position? Which is quite interesting because I work with positions, but it was more like in my life, how can this even be happening? And it started coming through, and it was as if I was being guided, and the words coming through were, Victoria, do you have bones inside you? And I was like, yes, I have bones inside me. And then what was coming through was, well, touch your bones, like prod your bones, prod your pelvis. And I was like, okay. And then what came through was, can you feel how strong your bone is?
It's like embodying
your
your flesh and your
so
bones.
simple. It's ridiculous. So they were, can you feel the strength of your bones? And I was like, yeah, I can feel my bone if you prod yourself now. The strongest thing you'll feel is your bone. I'm like, yeah, I can feel that. And then what came through was, okay, can you just rock your pelvis backwards and forwards? And I was like, yeah. So can you feel your nervous system being cradled by the strength of the power of your bones? Yes, I can feel that. And then what came through was, can anyone take your bones away from you? Like in reality, can anyone take your bones? And I was like, no, they're my bones. They're my bones. And then what came through is that the truth? And I was like, yes, that's the truth.
Then there is a process of reprogramming the way you live in your body.
And connecting to your bones. I mean, it is ridiculous that it could be that simple. But I promise you, to anyone, if you try it, if you try when you are in your most traumatized place or traumatized state to connect to your bones, your energy will change. And I see this in real time all the time. So when we can use our brain, give it a job to do. I call the brain like a naughty puppy. So it's busy, isn't it? Creating all the molecules and all the crazy chemicals.
It's a marvelous organ, but sometimes it can be like...
It's very mischievous. Let's put it like that.
It's a trigger to train it.
Yeah, but if you can use your brain and give it a sensible job to do, which isn't trying to prove to you how you know everything and how wonderful, but you use it to connect to the different parts of yourself, and not just fascia and muscle, because that is where all the trauma is. That is where all the wobbliness is. Yes, there's power and strength, but it's not always the right power and strength. If you go down a layer into the bones, and if you start moving the bones and you have them in alignment, you start to feel a very different quality of energy in your body.
And in this whole concept, there is the visualization, like you can feel all the details of each movement, what is creating.
And the direction, and the edges of the direction. So, as you know, we orientate you in a clock face, and then we get you to feel into the movement of each bone and joint in 3D. Now, I have chiropractors training with me now, and I've had doctors training with me, and all kinds of people, and they're like, oh my goodness, this is so foundational. This is
true. And this is actually a point I want to talk with you. I see your technique that could be part of many protocols, for people that
the foundational part,
recovery of surgery, accident, or just for yourself as a process.
And so what I did, I took something very complicated that was being just taught to practitioners and turned it into something very simple. And that is kind of the genius in what we're doing here. It's how do you take all of that information that most humans, if they think about their bones, they think they need an orthopedic doctor, which they would if they've broken a bone, for sure. Right? I'm not.
The thing is working together as interdisciplinary.
Exactly. But when we get then to the world of osteopaths and chiropractors, I'm sorry, and this was something that I needed to work through myself, but a lot of us as practitioners, myself included, I was a clinical massage therapist that was benefiting from people being in pain. And I do believe that we can teach something else, which is the program that we're teaching, which means our clients learn how they created their pain for themselves and how not to recreate it. And we give them agency and education and sovereignty over the body they live in. Whereas most people, when it comes to bones, will think they have to go to an osteopath or a chiropractor or someone. And that's what we're changing here.
Victoria, now tell us about your program. Briefly, just for the audience to understand.
Just briefly what it is. So there are now 3 levels of the program, and the program overall with those 3 levels is called the Curriculum of You. And it's designed to give you the knowledge about you, right? Not what you think and feel about stuff, but literally how your body is functioning. So level 1 is the groundbreaker for everyone, because in 7 weeks, you are taken through 48 practices. So that's divided over the 7 weeks. Week 1 is the feet, which we've been doing here. Week 2 is the pelvis and the hips. Week 3 is the spine. And all of this is building on the foundation of the other part. So we're including We're adding it all up like layers. Week 4 is the rib cage. Week 5 is the shoulders. Week 6 is the neck, which is really the relationship between the skull and the rib cage and the shoulders. And week 7 is the skull and the jaw. And in that 7 weeks, we will teach you how to realign every joint in 3 dimension. Most joints move in 3D.
And to become a practitioner, you have this certificate after the 3 level.
Yeah, so that any practitioner comes through as a client initially.
No.
So that level 1 is for anyone. And basically, you learn your own body, you learn to assess everything.
And you're doing online, then you can do more.
So everything is on an online platform. Every practice is in video, audio, written, and images. It's all released. We have an amazing online community, and then we take people who are going through that program. They will have one-to-ones with a practitioner who will assess them, and then we will also then put them in a small group where they will go through all the material again.
Tell me a testimonial, something that you observe, I know you probably have many of those, but something that will be for the audience like, okay, wow, this is like...
So first is to manage expectations. So I hold as the truth that anyone who uses our program will get results. There are the 5% who do it because someone else has forced them to. They are unlikely to get such great results if they haven't really been ready to do it.
Now you're starting to build, enter a relationship with other healthcare providers in England.
But generally, so for the 95%, I say it's 7 weeks to 10 months, depending on the pathology that comes in. If you're walking in with chronic fibromyalgia or a chronic problem that you've had for years, where the look is that you may have that for the rest of your life, you're going to be nearer being a 10-monther. If you are someone who's literally had an injury recently, you will probably be a 7-weeker. Within that, everyone starts to immediately feel an impact from the beginning because we are destabilizing. We are destabilizing that has been aligned to reorientate, and that can be a very shaky and tricky experience for some people who've had a very chronic condition.
You will say in percentage, in your clientele, which one are more like from chronic disease or just to improve their health?
It's a real combination because it works for everyone in a different way. So we will there's a beautiful lady in California. She came in, she'd been in a car crash a good few years ago, absolute chronic pain. Taking her through the first 7 weeks, the practitioner who took her through was really tough because she would start to destabilize, and then people go into this kind of emotional crisis of, and they're used to the old patterns. So we have to really help them. That woman now is liberated. She's finished level 2. Her husband supported her. She's able to do all the things that she wanted to do, but she couldn't do. And it's incredible. We have all our fibromyalgia people who they get their energy back, hypermobility. We have one trainee practitioner at the moment. She came in for that. And hypermobility or EDS is not. It's not just that label. There's a reason for it. So we will come in and we will start to teach them how to bring boundaries into every bone and joint so that then the connective tissue isn't so wobbly and saggy or whatever, because the bones aren't pulling it all over the place.
It's a real revelation. It's like you restarting from A to Z to understand how your body works.
Yes.
This is marvelous.
Yes.
Victoria, I really, really thank you so
thank you.
much. I know there is so many other things we can discuss, but I will promise for another interview.
Yeah, well, that would be amazing. And this view here is just absolutely extraordinary as well. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this, because being here in Portugal as well and having brought people here, all the practitioners and people like yourselves, it's just been so beautiful to do the work in such a beautiful place.
And I know this place means a lot for you because you create part of your program.
I created level 3 here last year. I just came on my own.
It's a land of energy and vortex.
Yeah, it really isn't it? And now everyone's been able to share the joy of the place, which is fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.